Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We did it, folks. We did it. Last night was a victory for our state, our bright red Trump plus 26 state. We re-elected Andy Beshear despite Trump's vocal, early, consistent support for Andy's opponent, Dan Cameron. And we couldn't be happier. So on this week's episode, we're going to walk through the results, see if we can find any lessons for the state moving forward. We're going to have Doug Price is right. He's going to bring us a segment on voter turnout. And we're just, break down the elections a little bit, vent our spleens, and then think about what's coming next. So really excited to have you here. But first, let's go ahead and plug Progress Kentucky. I want to plug Progress Kentucky because I think we did a really good job. We did a lot of things throughout the course of this election. We knocked on a ton of doors. I want to call out and thank Doug Price, Nate Orshin, Josh Buckman, Kathy Murphy, a lot of folks who helped knock on a lot of doors. Even the reticent Annabelle Nagel forced her to come out and do a little door knocking with us. There's a lot of great phone calling that happened. Betty, last name I'm totally blanking on. Betty Weaver did a ton of phone banking to help us, contact voters that way. And then a bunch of people stepped up at the end. We did an enormous amount of texting. So contacted over 27,000 voters through text, urging them to both watch Nate's amazing song, listen to Nate's amazing song, and get out and vote for Andy Beshear. So really, I think we did a lot. I'm not comfortable saying that we turned our Commonwealth purple, through last week, through Tuesday's election, but I think we did some important work. So thanks to everyone who helped out. Really do appreciate that. And if you want to make a donation to keep the work going, do it. Check it out. Our secure ActBlue website will gladly and happily take your resources. So, but let's go ahead and check in with our co-hosts. Really excited to chat with the election with these folks. Let us know who you are, where you are. What does your protest or what does your victory sign say today? You there on the internet, you can share yours, put it in the chat, and we can throw it on the screen if it's catchy and not doesn't use the F-bomb. So mine is I'm gonna steal it from Nate. It's Andy and Adriel for Kentucky. That's me. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Chilesburg in Lexington. All right, Nema, are you there?
I am here. Mine says we care, we show up, we act, we vote. That is what mine says. And it does obviously because there were a lot of folks this year, even though the turnout was like 38% or whatever, a lot of folks this year who I saw get off the sidelines and get to the polls and did the early voting. And so mine's a shout out to all those folks who got in the game this year, maybe for the first time. We appreciate everybody that was in the trenches, and that includes you guys at Progress Kentucky.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah. And then, that text army, I just want to let you know, it was significant. It was Sandy Downs who helped out a ton. Doug was a monster at the text banking. Shelly Skis did a ton. Amber Adams did a ton. So a lot of folks really helped out there. And I want to just, recognize and appreciate that because, not everyone responds grateful for your engagement and appreciative of what you were doing. It's like when you go out canvassing, you very rarely find somebody who's going to be like negative to your face. They're going to be polite because you're a real human at their door. Texts, that's a whole different world. And I didn't get very many that were very negative, but I think Shelly and Doug, who did twice as many as I did, or 3 times or 10 times as many as I did, got some, some pretty salty responses, we'll say. Speaking of, Doug Price, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm going to hold my sign up. It says, "Where have all the voters gone?" I'll be talking more about that in a little bit. And I'm from Harrison County, Kentucky.
Awesome. We're damn glad to have you here on the show. Well, we might get Kimberly Cecil Jones. She might join us later. She's having some technical difficulties. getting on. I don't know why, but there it is. All right, so yeah, so we're gonna do a couple of stories, the good and the bad. So on the good, we got Ginger Hopkins, Ginger Cornell. Feet and knuckles are sore, all for 4 more. That's great. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, people put out the they burned the shoe leather. Not that very many people canvas in leather shoes, probably. Not a lot of nylon and plastic and rubber. But yeah, so much time spent in those trenches, and we're appreciative of all of it. It wasn't as close as last time. There's a little bit more of a margin, which is great, gratifying, I think. But who knew what the heck was going to happen? I think every moment spent helping to support Andy and the other great candidates was definitely time well spent, time invested in a better, more compassionate state. So yeah, let's just get into it. We're going to talk about the wins. We'll talk about the losses. We'll talk about the real losers in this race. Doug's going to bring you that to you with your Doug Price is Right. But yeah, I think it was a event that could have gone either way. We saw some, saw some polls that showed the race was tightening. At the end of the day, though, very positive result overall for Andy. I think 5% victory, which from 0.5% that he won with 4 years ago. That is a very comfortable victory for him for sure. And he ended up with 694,167 votes, or 53% of the votes versus 47% for Dan Cameron. And of course, let's not forget the running mates, Jacqueline Coleman with Bashir and Robbie Mills, perhaps a weight. But yeah, that's a really good point. From 0.5 to 5%, that is an order of magnitude of improvement. And certainly is hopeful. I will say that. Well, so what do you think, folks? Does this mean have we won? Like we have said, Progress Kentucky's goal is to turn our Commonwealth purple. A 5%, a Democrat winning a Trump plus 26 state, but by 5% statewide. What do we think about that? Are we purple yet? Have we done it?
Yeah, I don't think we've done it. I think we might need to win a few of the legislative, Senate and House representatives races. They've got the supermajority right now, so the governor is kind of limited in what he can do. But I kind of hope this go around that they know he's not going to be reelected. So why not work with the governor and do things that are good for the people of the Commonwealth as opposed to working against the governor? So what do you think, Nema?
I kind of had a moment over this on Twitter today, or whatever they call it now. And, I was hoping, and it's probably because we're Democrats and we're always thinking it'll be better tomorrow, right? So maybe that was the problem. But I was thinking today, it'd be really nice if we could just have the reset. He's not running. He can't run again. All these other things. If everybody will just calm down, if everybody will. And the first thing I see is the comment from Damon Thayer. Very first comment I see. And I'm like, because I had no problems with Damon for a while. I mean, I haven't even wanted to bring out the emoji or anything for a while. And, because I realized that he wasn't nearly as bad as some of the other ones up there, which is terrifying. But then he says this, and I just cannot, because here's the thing. If you watch him, if you've been around him in Frankfurt, he really considers himself a statesman. He's always talking about back in the good old days, whenever he was a young lad trying to get into politics. He's always and the way he carries himself on the floor. And a statesman doesn't do that, what he did today. A statesman does not say, screw you. We're never going to work with you.
All right, so let's do this in case people have not seen
the quote,
sorry. Right?
Yeah.
And, not everyone spends as much time as on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it as Nema. And, some people maybe didn't see about through the paywall. All right, so here's Damon Thayer, who, of course, is Senate Majority Floor Leader and a big pain in the ass. His quote is, "I think it's too far gone. There's no incentive or reason for us to work with him. He doesn't deserve an opportunity for reparation, especially after the campaign. He's taking credit for all our good work, including some things he vetoed," Thayer said. So, that's the framing that Nema was a little fired up about. And yeah, I think a lot of people who, wanted to see, Andy ran on that message, right? Vision v. division, right? And the fact that Kentuckians can put politics aside and come together for the good of the Commonwealth. And Damon Thayer is like, no, we cannot. No, we will not. We do not. We have zero interest in doing that. And you can just go, climb a rope. Andy.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous because, and here's the other thing with Thayer. And this is a problem. I think it runs rampant through Frankfurt. For some reason, there's some of these folks who honestly think that seat is theirs. Like it's theirs. And they decide when they, do this or that. Thayer said as much over medical marijuana 2 sessions ago. If you remember, he said, "I'll never vote for it. If you don't like it, vote me out." So there's a real arrogance here. And I say you're not a statesman. And I hope that I said they should have sent flowers to Andy today, because who else were they going to bitch about the next 4 years? They only kind of sort of started complaining about Bevin there towards the end, whenever they realized that he was the most unpopular governor in forever. It's him and Fletcher toss up. And so, that's the thing, y'all. Like, there was a time when statesmen were in both branches, both parties, and would yell and beat each other up on the floor, but then go have a drink afterwards. And, and really tried to work towards the middle for things. That doesn't exist in today's politics. It does not exist in any fiber of Damon Thayer's body. And it is a damn shame.
I have to jump in and say something about Damon Thayer. He is a payday lender supporter, and he is the best Christmas tree thrower that I have ever heard of. If you don't know that story, you can Google it, but he was mad at a girlfriend or a live-in, and he decided it made sense to throw the Christmas tree out into the yard twice, I believe.
Twice. Was this the day after Christmas, or was this like Epiphany? Did he keep it up through Epiphany, or it was during the holiday?
I think it was during the holidays.
All right. Keeping it classy.
Yeah.
Damon Thayer. Yeah. Hey, look, we got Kimberly Cecil Jones. She is joining us. Her technical difficulties have been, beaten. So yeah, what's going on? How are you? How are you feeling about the election? You got a sign? What do you got? Where are you coming from?
I just have me as a sign that, like, we did it. Like, all the positive energy, all the prayers, all of the immensely hard work. This was one of the most aggressive campaigns ever known to mankind in America. And I was coming in as his tour bus was coming to the old Forrester venue in Paristown here in Louisville, Kentucky. Of course, he wanted to be with his Jefferson County folk, right? And when he was up on that stage, oh my God, didn't they look like the first family? Didn't he look presidential, and his wife and his children? And I'm just going to tell you, I'm the walking sign today that says we did it. We collectively came together as a team, everybody across Kentucky, and we got Andy back his seat where he rightfully belongs.
Absolutely. Great job. So yeah,
I can't thank Louisville enough. I had to pop in here. Miss Kimberly, I am so glad to see you tonight, because I want to personally say thank you, Louisville. Thank you, Black women. Thank you to the Black community for rising up. And thank you, Lord, that there were enough of us white women who usually get it wrong that stood and locked arms and said, oh no, Not anymore. Enough is enough. So thank you, Louisville. Thank you, Miss Kimberly. We really appreciate y'all down here in Lexington. We hope we made y'all proud too.
Oh, I'm proud of Fayette County always. We basically know that we're going to always have Fayette and Jefferson County, but I am very impressed at the African American turnout, and I'm also extremely impressed by our young people coming out to vote for this election. Here in Louisville, I can't speak for Fayette or anywhere else, but our governor is sort of like a rock star. They've even affectionately named him Uncle Andy. So when black folks call you uncle, you're in like Flynn, okay? He could come to the cookout and stay. And then it was all on Instagram, Twitter, well, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook. They were like, we're going on Broadway. Uncle Andy has won. And so they were out on Broadway, honking horns, celebrating like we've won the NCAA championship. And I haven't seen excitement in a campaign of this magnitude since Barack Obama.
Yeah, no, it was really, really thrilling for sure. Ginger made it her comment in the comment section saying that he made her cry while he was speaking. So yeah, definitely a lot of charisma, a lot of enthusiasm went into this race, and he saw some very significant gains, right? So going from 0.5 to 5%, as Nate already pointed out, that is an order of magnitude. He saw his biggest gains in coal country, which I thought was really interesting. If you think back to how he launched the campaign, these are some areas that were hit hard by some of the natural disasters as well, right? So there's that. Like, he showed up, he kept showing up, he did some very smart things and how he showed up. But yeah, coal country for Andy was one of the first big election kind of campaign launches, which I loved. I thought it was so strategic and so smart, because it was legit. Like, he had the United Mine Workers, or the retired coal workers were all on his side, and very strongly came out for him and endorsed him. And those communities really did show up, and it took away, I think, one of the cudgels that Republicans love to use against Democrats, right? Is that Democrats hate coal, and they're going to shut down coal mines. It's like, well, the reality of it is there's zero unionized coal mines in Kentucky. So that when the coal miners union comes out for you in Kentucky, it means you're standing up for their the folks on the pensions is a big piece of it. But Andy's been super quiet on things like climate change, or he's not done anything to ruffle feathers in the energy universe at all. And so I think it was legitimate, and it helped. It helped, and I think it showed in those results. I don't know, but he obviously saw a lot of gains in a lot of places. But there's a great graphic from Louisville Public Media. I'll put that in the run of show, and folks can get it out there, where it shows where he got the biggest gains from 4 years ago. And it's very we should look at that. Folks who are interested in that long term, turning our state purple, those are places we should look at, where he saw the biggest gains, where he flipped counties. And I think it's the overall question, which I asked earlier, have we done it? Is Kentucky purple? Winning statewide is a big piece of that, right? But clearly we're not. We are not purple. If you look down ballot, everyone else got trashed, right? By wide margins. I started the evening really hopeful, because some of the early returns were those early voting returns, which of course Democrats took advantage of early voting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Colonel Pan could win this thing, or Michael Bowman's in it. And then it's like, oh, more and more returns came back. Like, oh, that's not even close. So, yeah, it's a challenge. We're not purple. We got more work to do, people.
No, and I want to speak on the coal country thing, because I just about passed out when I saw my home county went blue.
Amazing.
And, I've had a bone to pick with Letcher County since they voted out Angie Hatton, who was the voice for the working people in Frankfort when it came to the 606. So I was floored. And then I was angry too, because I'm like, well, you can vote. You just showed up. You showed up for Andy, right? But here's the thing that I think, and this is why Nobody, and I mean this, no Republican could have beat Andy Beshear this year. Nobody. And here's why. We knew him. We and Kentuckians are very relationship oriented. And we're always nosy too, and we're like, well, who's their family, what do they do for a living? We want to know everybody's family connections and trees and all this other stuff, and that's how we kind of connect with each other. And I think most humans do that. You're less likely to think somebody is a socialist baby killer if you spent an entire year in this lockdown, right? This whole concern. I mean, think about this. Andy was in our living rooms every day showing compassion, uncertainty, fear, but also leadership. And I think that is what did it for a lot of these folks, because you cannot spend that time that we felt. I mean, think about it, y'all. They were making beer after the governor, they were making beer after Virginia. God rest her soul. When Virginia passed, this whole state was like, man, because it was like she was our aunt. She was somebody, we cared about her. And so I think that I think that is the thing that the Cameron campaign never could understand, is that it's hard to vote against somebody that you don't feel like you care about or they care about you. And so, I think that was one of the things they never got. And the whole campaign, let's not get this twisted, was a hot mess. It was a disaster. And I told somebody the other day, if you didn't think Louisville was coming for y'all, I don't know what hole you've been living in. But I just think that's the thing about Andy. It's so weird, right? I mean, it's like everybody thinks they know him. I mean, hell, we call him Andy.
Yeah,
He's
no,
very
Uncle Andy for
relatable.
sure.
Mhm.
What's that, Kimberly? Sorry.
I'm saying he's very, very relatable. And I've been hearing, having boots on the ground here in Jefferson County and talking to some other folks that I know, like in Hazard and some other little areas, Pikeville, some Black folks. And they're like, he comes around and he doesn't act like he's scared of us, is one of the comments that I've heard from a lot of our Black folks here in Kentucky, some even in those rural areas, especially Bowling Green. I heard a lot of the students there, African-American students there, were very, very impressed with Andy because he's relatable. And I think that's what happened with Amy McGrath. She never looked very comfortable in certain sets of people. And they felt that. They truly felt that. But I want to also bring this up as well, just staying on top of the news internationally, not just here nationally. But I was surprised that Andy was being talked about, admired on I-24 News, which is in Israel, on Al Jazeera English, which is based out of Doha, Qatar, or Qatar, if some people like to say, saw about the race on the BBC, CNN, Fox News, even. It's amazing. And so this morning I was looking at Morning Joe on MSNBC, and it was just amazing how they were analyzing everything. And then Joe Scarborough, what's his name?
Yeah,
Joe. Yeah, him. So he was saying this morning, they were talking about Andy and talking about this really, really red state, which is not just red, it's like real, real, real red, that we still have a Democrat governor, is absolutely baffling to everybody all over the world at this particular point. And then second of all, as they were speaking, this was very interesting to me, that they were really keeping tabs, most certainly, on this race, because they said for the last few years or more, it's a trend. if we have a Democratic governor, that means that we're going to win the presidency. If we have a Republican governor here in Kentucky, we normally have a Republican president. So also, I would just like to add on this, the real caveat is, if you're out here and you're not bashing everyone and you truly care about people, this is not something that you can buy or you can even fake. You have to be a compassionate hearted person to be a governor of this state. I'm serious. You really, really do. And, I guess this means that we're going to have a Democratic president for next year. At least I hope it is. And did you all also hear that President Joe Biden might be stepping down as well?
What? This from the unsubstantiated rumor mill. I think I will say this.
It's been on the news and everything that he is seriously thinking about.
You need a legit source if you're going to bring that to this conversation.
Okay.
But this is the Kentucky news focused Kernels of Truth. I
know, but I was just saying,
Kimberly.
Because you didn't let me finish. You didn't let me finish.
I will say this.
You know what? I'm going to disown you as my brother. Oh
what? Come on.
Yes.
Come
no
on.
Christmas present for you. No,
I want to ask you a question, Kimberly. It's specifically for you, right? So you said, or Nema said, they call him Uncle Andy, and in a lot of communities that means, that means something really nice, right? He definitely has got that uncle vibe. He's, the daddy vibe, whatever. He's been in our homes for that solid year, telling us what was up, and did an amazing job, and everyone thought they knew him. But folks didn't really feel like they knew Dan Cameron, right? All they knew he was slick, and some folks called him Uncle, and it was not necessarily
they called him Uncle Tom,
not a positive thing.
Head. He was like that guy in Django. What was his name? The famous actor that played. I know Jamie.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
Yes, Samuel L. Jackson. That's what we think about Daniel Cameron. Everybody needs to be authentically who they are, especially when you're running for office. You need to be real. I understand there's some fluff and, pomp and circumstance of this and that. But for the real deal, the meat and potatoes of it that you can chew on, you have to actually be authentically who you are. And that's going to draw people to you. And also, Aaron, in the Black community, everybody is your family most of the time. You can say, oh, that's my cousin, but it's not really your cousin. Oh, your parents brought other people around. Oh, that's my Aunt Betty and Uncle Wayne, but they're not really your blood uncle. So it means something in the Black community. And then in addition to that, when I say, he can stay at the cookout, that is another little thing that Black people say, like, they can come to the cookout, but they did not bring no potato salad. They need to leave immediately, right? And then you have, people of other ethnicities that we can say, hey, yeah, come on to the cookout. You can stay until we don't have no more beer or food left, right? Andy's the type that can sit at the table and play spades, and I'm pretty sure he can. So that's actually what I was saying on that. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Yeah. So I think no one bought it when Dan Cameron said like he had never experienced racism, or he's like the post-racist like politician, like not authentic. No Black person's like, oh yeah, totally. I get what you're saying, Dan.
Well, what makes me crazy is that whenever he did say, he was like, oh no, racism doesn't exist. And then when the ads hit Louisville, all of a sudden, you all were being racist towards Daniel Cameron. And I said, hold on, I thought it didn't exist. Like, but here it is. It was like this magic flip-flop kind of thing. And I don't know who the gentleman's name was that was on TV explaining that ad, but he was awesome, because he was like, they were trying to make him feel bad. Like the interviewer was like, well, you're going to feel bad. He was like, wait till you see the next one. He was like, I have nothing. I'm giving nothing here. I don't
I
care.
think that was Cliff Albright from
Yeah.
Black Voters Matter.
Yeah,
He is a
he
hell of an
like
organizer.
doubled, tripled, quadrupled down. It was amazing. I mean, it really was. And I think that's the other thing that I noticed more and more this election is that you saw a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different beliefs, and a lot of different everythings who were jumping on people at at the same time. They were like, hold on, ain't nobody buying that. Like, I mean, that was crazy. I've not seen anybody like us all come together like that, in a while. So yeah, it was amazing.
And then let's talk about that campaign a little bit more, and then we'll talk about some of the other races. Obviously, we're all buoyed because Andy won, and that really was kind of the prize. Because that's the
Aaron,
governor.
what
That's
else
the
is there to talk about? I mean, like, there's nothing really else to talk about with the other down ballot. My heart goes out to them. I mean, my eyes watered up a little bit.
Well,
But
there were some
this
other.
is
We had some
Andy
victories.
time. This
We
is
had some
Andy
victories.
time.
I do want to talk about it, but yeah, let's do. We also have a Doug Price is Right queued up about the real losers of this election. But I wanted to just talk about the actual kind of the campaign. Andy was like very positive. He did point out some kind of problems with Dan Cameron, right? He pointed out the like abortion thing, which Dan Cameron tried to like slime his way out of, like, oh, of course I would sign a bill that allowed for exemptions if I was required to by the courts. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Right. Or if the legislature will pass it.
Yeah.
And they're never going to do it, right. Yeah.
So, and he got just nailed on abortion again and again and again, which I think post Roe, the overturning of Roe, that's the Democrats' smart move, is to keep reminding everyone that Republicans will do everything in their power to take away access to abortion. And if they've already done it, like they've done it here in Kentucky, they're going to make sure they can prosecute women who leave states to get that, that health care, right? And Dan Cameron, like, wanted to maintain that ability to have insights into people's, healthcare that way, which I thought was, really problematic. So, and the fact that, in the closing arguments, what was our governor talking about? He's talking about the economic gains, the amazing boom, the number of jobs created, the big factories that are being landed, and he talked about, that amazing survivor, the woman who was raped by her, stepfather at 12, and who, yeah, she was powerful, and he brought her along like on a bunch of the stops, right? Let's compare and contrast. Oh, and then also he had the Louisville stops or actually the UK and Louisville stops with Jack Harlow, right? So, if you've got a major music star who's on board, bring him along.
Well, I just love and don't forget the line that he used last night, which was, you chose Jack Harlow over Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I absolutely fell in the floor. That should be a t-shirt because yes, we did Kentucky.
Was Ted Nugent not available to come and bring his his musical power? Yeah. Of course, the best music in the campaign was our own NATO's It's Andy for Kentucky song for sure. Thank you for reminding us of that, NATO. But then, obviously Jack Harlow's cooler than Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but
just a little bit,
just tiny little bit. And then Hadley was like a lot cooler than, I'll just say it, Riley Gaines. Yeah. So I got closing arguments, right? I got 3 texts from the Republicans about how Andy's not a real man because he won't stand up for women's sports. Like that was what they had. They were going all in on trans issues, and Andy like never walked back the fact that he was pro trans folks and he was going to fight for them, and he never like took any bait at all on that issue. But they just kept coming back. Like that was their closing argument, was trans sports, trans. Like it just seemed super not germane to everyone's lived experience, except for folks who love trans people, right? And they're like, oh, you got to just keep on beating up on trans people. That's what you got. That's gross.
Right. I mean, it's true.
But remember, I told you all that Daniel Cameron wasn't going to win. And I mean, I know this is like the neon yellow elephant in the room, but I stated from the very beginning, this is a very racist state. I know, because I've traveled this entire state. I know what counties I wouldn't go to if it was a little dark, and I know what counties I feel safe in. They weren't going to vote Daniel Cameron in. Come on now. You got a lot of racist men in some of these rural areas, and he got a white wife. You think they like that? No, they do not. So I knew. I knew. It's just like Charles Booker. You're close, but no cigar.
So
Yeah, I suspected some of that as well, especially in the 606. I'm not trying to, make anybody. I'm from there. It's not like I'm trying to pick at anybody, but the thing is, and I think you're right, Kimberly. We have been talking about this kind of in my circles as well, about how we knew people, who were like, oh yeah, I'm never voting for that Andy, but there's no way I'm voting for Daniel Cameron. And it was because of the color of his skin. And they were openly saying it. And, you're just like, oh, okay. But, everybody else, to everybody else, are like, well, they're a Republican. They're going to vote for him. Not so fast. It's just like when Hillary ran against Trump. Not every woman voted for Hillary, and for whatever reason. And so I'm with you, Kim. I think there was some of that working as well. I honestly do believe that, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people who don't realize that their neighbors are Klan members, and I'm like, no, it's bad, I mean, so yeah, it'll be interesting.
On the other hand, I want to read something from Representative Jason Nema. He wrote this, or it was an X post, I guess you would call it. On November 3rd, he said, the Cameron campaign has reached a crescendo. And as I said 2 weeks ago, he will win on Tuesday. And it won't even be a long night. So I guess
he thought Bevan was going to win too, guys. I want you to know. Not only did he think Bevan was going to win, he was like, he's the man of the hour because of he wrote this flowery thing. So yeah, we all know Jason Nema he's on top of what's going on in Kentucky, y'all.
What I want to ask, should I send him a knife and a fork and ask him if he wants to eat these words?
Yes, I vote yes.
That, but don't go too hard on him because he's working with our mayor on this $40 million endeavor that's going to be happening here in Jefferson County. So,
wow.
I don't know.
He was up there at the press conference, and I was like, Jason Nema's what? Yeah, he was up there with the Democrats, and it kind of freaked me out for a moment.
I mean, I guess if you want to get it through the state house, you probably need a Republican to be there on it. But all right, so there were other victories. I'm going to touch on those before we move into our Doug Price is Right segment, which I really want to get to, and I also want to wrap us up before you do an hour, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people have already talked about this election a lot. But Adriel Camuel won in the 93rd. We worked really hard to canvass in that area. We did most of our texting in that area, and we worked really hard to get her on. She was on the show twice. She had kind of rough sledding early, just kind of in the getting the primary nomination there, but then really did, I think, showed what she could do, which was knock on a ton of doors.
Can I interject here for a second? Please. Adriel's a union member, a union sister, and has been in the trenches for a long time here in Kentucky behind the scenes. But I do want to say this because I have some of the facts of how many. So that she got the nomination in June. There was a slow transition to even get her up and running with social media and stuff. So I think there was a gap there. Her team and her knocked out on over 16,000 doors. She lost 30 pounds. They sent out over almost 2,000 postcards and raised almost the same amount of money as her wealthy opponent, who's a contractor, at $65,000 since mid-June. And I'm going to tell you, it remains to be one of the most impressive teams that we've got down here in Fayette County. People that absolutely are workhorses, not show horses. And that's what makes a difference. It's the doors. And you know what? Andy's team, going back to him, Team Andy and Jacqueline, what they say, 1.5 million doors were knocked by that campaign. Yeah. And so just a shout out to the people behind the scenes that are working in the trenches, fighting the fight every single day, because those are the people that pushed a lot of this over the top. It took all of us pushing, right, in the same direction.
And she won with 58% of the vote, which is really impressive for that district. I think it was a +7 Biden district if you look at it. But when Lamine Swan won it, he won it with 53% of the vote. So I think what that goes to show is that she did have an amazing field campaign, as Nema just mentioned. But that Andy had coattails in Lexington, in this area especially, right? He didn't have them, across the board, obviously, what we saw with the down ballot statewide offices, or, he was his ticket got the least amount of votes to win a statewide office, right? All Republicans got more votes than Andy Beshear did to win their races statewide. Of course, Michael Adams, unfortunately, was the biggest statewide vote getter with 784,000, almost 785,000 votes, 61% of the reported votes. So, definitely.
I'm not shocked by that.
Yeah, no.
I wasn't shocked. Yeah.
Although Allison Ball came in just behind him.
Most people don't have a problem with him.
Yeah, most people don't
have a problem with him.
Nope, and a lot of Democrats voted for him, and
Andy works well with him. They do all right.
Yeah. And he had the commercial out that had Andy in it, not Daniel Cameron. And because I think Michael Adams saw the writing on the wall and was like, Andy's a lot more popular than Daniel Cameron is. So, yeah, I'm not shocked at all by Michael Adams at all.
No, and I think Michael Adams has begun running for governor. If you look at some of the comments, you look at what he's retweeting, it's like that guy is not talking about Secretary of State duties. He is talking about like statewide issues that governors deal with already. So, yeah, mark my words, that guy will be running. And unless the Democrats, really hit upon a great candidate and can do a lot of investment in field over the next little bit, we're not going to see. He'll probably be the next governor. I'll say it right now. But all right, so we're going to move.
I'm going Jacqueline Coleman.
Okay, good. I like her.
It's time to have a woman in office again. Last time we got Toyota. That's all I'm saying.
And then beyond Adriel, also in Lexington, Susan Lamb won for county clerk. Is that right? And then Marilyn Clark won for the school board. So
that was a big win for public education, with Marilyn Clark retaining the seat she was appointed to, and big win for public ed.
Yeah. And do you want to put a plug in for public education right now, Nema?
No.
I do want to say who won in Louisville, if I may.
Yeah,
very important races as well.
Please.
So for the Metro Council, Phil Baker was able to hold on to his seat. Shamika Parrish Wright, who ran for mayor, who came in second after Craig Greenberg, which was like amazing to everyone. She did win her race. And then also
she crushed it, didn't she, Kim? I think it was like 81%. She beat that whoever it was, she beat them down, gave them a beat down. Yeah.
Oh man, she beat them up, okay? Like real bad. Like it was real bad beat up.
It was embarrassing.
So also Ben Weber-Reno, who is a councilman here, he was appointed to his seat when Cassie Armstrong went to the state Senate, and he ran and he was able to keep his seat as well. And my good friend Betsy Foster is his legislative aide in Metro Council. So yeah, we did all right. Yeah.
The Blue Dots are doing okay.
Yeah, it was a decent night. Yeah.
I do feel a little sorry for the down ballot folks we love, folks who came on this show once or twice, who we adored and really worked hard for. But, you know, there's just some institutional challenges of winning as a Democrat in Kentucky. If you could do it so you could get on everyone's TV at 5 o'clock every night for a year, maybe we can make some inroads. But it's absolutely, I think we're in a spot where, you know, there's structural challenges we need to make here. And Democrats still aren't getting the credit for I think the agenda that we try to impose, try to win on. It's all about kind of culture war stuff. So we got to like keep fighting that for sure. But yeah, I know, Doug, you've done some preparation. You want to talk about something that is, I think, very important to the future of Democrats in Kentucky, and the real losers of this election in a segment we're calling Doug Price is Right.
Yes, welcome to another edition of Doug Price is Right. Initially, Kentucky's Secretary of State Adams, who garnered the most votes in this election, stated he thought the turnout would be around 42%. The last number I saw was 38%. Really? Stupid people. Do we really want only 38% of the people to vote? Certainly, I wanted Andy to win and was ready to move out of the state if he had not won. Having said that, I'm going to jump on what Aaron said. I think the governor's race in 2027, Secretary of State Michael Adams will probably run and win going away. Adams, as Aaron has noted, also was the top vote getter in this election. A little over 1.3 million people voted out of 3.5 million registered voters. Again, 38%. Let's talk about campaign cash and tie that in with the number of people who voted. The last estimate I saw was 59 million, which included reports through October. So you can count on this total increasing by, I don't know, at least maybe 5 million. By my calculation, people, businesses, PACs, etc., spent over $46 a person per vote. Buying votes is illegal in Kentucky, as it is, I guess, in all states. But isn't that essentially what candidates and PACs, political parties, dark money groups are doing? This, friends, is something we have to fix. I like Australia's mandatory voting laws. In 2022, almost 90% of the people voted. How about we have a state/business sponsored lottery where everyone who votes is entered into a pool of winners? Encourage people to vote early and have drawings prior to the elections. How about a checkoff on state income tax returns? If you vote, you get a special benefit, or a special food voucher for someone who needs these along with voting. I can only imagine the outroar from the Republican side of the aisle on that idea. A couple of months ago, I talked to Secretary of State Adams about the need to increase voting. I felt that he wasn't really interested in talking about it, as he deflected to what he had done working with Beshear on expanded voting opportunities. Obviously, we had expanded voting rules in this election, but in 2019, 1.4 million people voted, and in 2023, 1.3 million people voted, almost 150,000 less voters. The weather was nicer compared to 2019, when the weather was much colder. My point is, expanded opportunities to vote did not result in more voters. What if we changed our executive branch offices elections to coincide with presidential elections? The turnout is better. Perhaps that would help. Our governor, working with both political parties and the Kentucky Secretary of State, should appoint a commission to work on how we fix this. I would happily serve on this commission. Well, maybe not, as I kind of might already be involved in too much other stuff. We, the people, are not participating in the political process, 38%, and we should be ashamed. This needs to be fixed. That's my DPIR. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, 38%. That is just pathetic. I like some of your solutions. I'm all in on a lottery. I think there should be lotteries and like winners. You know, you only get a ticket if you vote.
So since Doug did the losers, can we throw out some winners last night besides, of course, Andy and the other folks? Because I'm thinking Virginia won last night. Ohio won last night by absolutely again pushing back against the abortion issue, and they legalized weed, y'all. And I'm just saying that again, Kentucky is going to be sitting here. The traffic to get to Cincinnati, y'all, is going to be. They're gonna have, they're gonna have to put it probably another bridge in. I hope we can afford 2 bridges.
Thank God they're gonna have the new bridge. I think it's gonna get a lot of more traffic because Ohio. One more reason to go to Cincinnati. There's like Major League Baseball. There's the REI. There's the IKEA. There's the legal weed. There's jungle gyms. There's so many reasons to go up there for sure.
I'm just telling y'all. I mean, that was wild, and the Virginia thing is even more wild. And I think not only was abortion an issue there, but I also think that a lot of these white suburban women who were clutching their pearls over porn in their kids' schools, or face or masks, whatever. And it was mostly the masks, I guess, up there in Loudoun County, and lost their minds and put him in. Now they're looking and saying, hold up now, my school, why are you banning this book? Hold up now, what's going on here? I think there's a little bit of buyer's remorse from, and I say this because I have a friend that lives in Loudoun County, and she voted for Youngkin. And I was like, you are out of your mind. And now she's got buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It definitely was a good night, I think, around the country for Democrats generally, which again, I'm not just like some Progress Kentucky is about progress. It's not about Democrats, but I'll just say this one more time in case, you were thinking like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of Democrats. No, we are an organization that cares about important things like public education, making sure it's well funded, making sure the teachers are paid well, and that everyone has access to it. So there's really kind of only one party that's working on that. We're concerned about where politicians are and whether they're in your doctor's office with you. And there's only one party that's like wants to get the politicians out of the doctor's office. And we're concerned about climate change. We're concerned about, climate pollution. What are we doing about the future for our kids? And there's only one party, and it's only half the party in Kentucky that's even willing to talk about it and do anything about it. So, it's like, that's why we end up where we are. It's not because we're just knee-jerk pro-Democrats. It's just the Republicans have gone so far like off the rails. They're not going to there's no reasonable conversation you can have with them about these issues that I think are so important to the future of our Commonwealth. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear about that. We're not just, a partisan entity. We are a nonpartisan entity. It's just there's only one party that you can have a conversation with. So I want to say thanks to everyone for kind of sharing your views and your insights tonight. We didn't have a guest, but I think we had a great conversation and really do appreciate everyone who did the work to get us where we are, where we can celebrate a bit today and have a little bit of relief and mark ourselves safe from Dan Cameron. But I mean,
what's he gonna do now, y'all? Like, he don't have a job,
He's
like
an attorney. Mitch will get him something.
Oh, that's true.
That's
true. I mean, I wasn't feeling bad for him or anything.
Well, wait, he's an attorney. Trump's got some work for him.
No, Trump doesn't like to pay, so I wouldn't even work for him.
And Trump just was pedaling as fast as he could away from Cameron. You see, like they had that tele rally. What is a tele rally? Were they selling those vitamins and stuff they push on those shows too? They had a tele rally. Trump called in for like 8 minutes or something like that. Ridiculous.
Well, it's like, so they wanted to have Trump involved, but they didn't want to like bring him in and like get all the media of Trump being involved, because then everyone notices that Trump is involved. Even the Pope are like, wait a minute, that guy's going to go to jail. But you want your supporters to know that Trump is involved. So that's what they came up with. It kind of worked for Youngkin, I think, in Virginia a while back. but it clearly did not work for Dan Cameron. And
Yeah,
I'll
that
tell you
was
what, I know we're trying to wrap the show up. I'm trying to desperately, but I was getting nervous about the Biden Bashir like thing. I think there's so much kind of anti-Biden sentiment out there that I was getting a bit nervous that tying Andy Bashir to Joe Biden was going to be that kind of final closing argument that was going to work for him. But, you know.
Hold on, I got to say this really quick before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
We need people to run for school board. That's what you were telling us. And I'm talking to everybody across the Commonwealth. School board is the first line of defense, the first place where democracy is in action for your local schools. And we cannot allow the folks who hate public ed to infiltrate public ed and destroy it like we're seeing in Florida and Texas and other places. So you might not think that you can do it or that but trust me, there's a lot of fine people in this Commonwealth who are grassroots hard workers and get it done. They will help you, support you, but please, seriously, we need school board members and city council members and magistrates and constables. As long as we're going to have those offices, might as well go ahead and run for the seat. This is what we have to do, y'all. We got to find the courage to do it and stand up and say it.
Build the bench. We got to build the bench for sure. You gotta walk for sure before you can run, and you gotta run before you can walk. I don't know what that means, but we should do that. Everyone listen to Nema. Run for office, not for Senate, not for House of Representatives. Just start at the local level. Where your neighbors
and young Dems. You all crushed it this year. Please, we'd love to have you run for school board in Fayette County, and I'll tell you why. Because you know better what's going on in the classrooms than I do from 25 years ago. So let's do it, y'all. Let's go. Let's do it for sure. All right. Thanks, everybody. Everyone have a great rest of your week. And we will likely be back next week. I think that's what I got for you. Nate, play us out.